Are you ready to dive in the world of project management? Hit that subscribe button as we explore how to stay relevant in the agile workforce.
When I was early on in project management, I didn't know really the difference between scope creep and gold plating. I thought a lot of the attributes from both of them were the same. But in fact, scope creep really starts from the customer, and a lot of it is unintentional for the most part. And gold plating, it's from the project team. And it really is intentional. And just like the definition or the term is, you're really trying to plate things with gold and make it look more visually appealing than it necessarily needs to be. And a lot of it starts with the definition of the scope. And the scope is the foundation of the project. It literally describes the constraints of the project. And when you have scope creep, it's uncontrollable expansion of the project's scope. And it happens when new features, new requirements, and new tasks are added to the project unnecessarily. And a lot of it is because there's no or minimal change control. And change control is something that needs to be defined very early on. You don't want to make unnecessary changes without checks and balances. And change control allows that process to be checked and balanced. The scope of the project is the foundation. That actually starts off the project. The kickoff on the project starts with the scope. It really describes what the project's ultimate outcomes are, what the deliverables are going to be. So that is the foundation of what the project is. You start first with the scope. The project manager looks at the scope. I make sure that all project team members, all project stakeholders know what the scope is. So then we can all know what that North Star is, where the ultimate goal of this project is going. So we can all be on the same page. But when scope creep comes into play, that's when individuals, typically from the customer, they make certain requests. They add additional tasks. Sometimes, and for the most point, unnecessarily. And it expands that project. And sometimes can make it stray away from that original intent. Gold plating, on the other hand, is when project team members want to add additional features, potential requirements in place, and it may be for their own benefit. It's based off of their own desires. It's not ultimately what was initially drawn out in the project. And let me give you a perfect example of this. Perfect example of this. Let's just say, case in point, I had a deck that was being expanded. And I initially told, the contractor, hey, I just want it expanded by X amount of feet in width and X amount of feet in length. Gold plating would be going beyond that, adding railing to it, maybe adding an additional couple extra feet to that, hopefully expecting that maybe they may get an extra review, a bigger tip, whatever it may be. But that is typically from the project team members trying to add additional features that were not initially discussed in that scope. Now, on the opposite side, scope creep would be if I had that same project. And as the project team members were out there working on that deck, and I had already defined, here's how many feet I want it in width expanded, and here's how many feet in length I want the deck expanded. I went out there and I said, while you're out there, I also purchased this railing that would work perfectly for this deck. Would y'all be able to install that as well? That was not initially defined in the project scope. Those are additional tasks, requirements that are being added on, additional features as well. So, that's an expansion of the project scope by making that request without the proper changes being conducted. If it was going to be conducted using the proper channels, then we would submit a change request, potentially increase the cost because there's going to be more man hours attributed to adding that railing. So that's going to drive on additional costs and expenses for that. And we would want to make sure that, no different than how we had initially defined the scope for the initial project, which was just expanding that deck, we would want to make sure that that expansion to adding that railing is clearly defined as well with that change request, so there's no confusion with that request and how to proceed forward. That's the proper way. But just having the customer, case in point, that being myself, going out to a project team and informing them, hey, let's go and just add this additional railing, this additional feature, and not having the proper change request done, that is scope creep. And that can tear a project down, lead to delays, and cause more additional costs unnecessarily to the project. So that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of projects fail, is because of scope creep, and it happens unnecessarily. And like I said, on the flip side, you have the project team where they could want to expand some of the features or the requirements of the project independently without clear direction from the end customer or getting proper approval. And that is gold plating. A lot of times that's because they want to pat themselves on the back and show, hey, here's this additional thing that we can do. But if it's not been defined, you should not go forward and do that. That's gold plating. And, ultimately it leaves you with the liability if you're gold plating. You don't want to unnecessarily do that. And, I've caught myself sometimes, I'll be honest with you, where, there's been something where it's like, oh, this is a layup. I can easily add this additional feature or whatever. If you feel like you're that individual within the project team, you need to talk to someone, typically with the end customer, on the end customer side. And if you don't know what that change review process is, identify and find out what that is and follow the proper channels. And if you've gained a lot of insight from this video and want to find out more project management tips, please come back and follow. We will have more videos on how you can make project management an empowering career. Come back. We look forward to speaking with you.
Thank you for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more project management content. See you on the next one.